But my decision to take therapy was because it felt extremely distressing to me physically. That's when I knew I'm kind of in trouble. I remember this lovely thing she said to me when we were talking on call, where she said that, you're on your journey and you may feel like you're carrying a heavy weight. All I can do is not tell you where to go, but know that I am walking with you on this journey, and know that you have someone who has your back, at least. I had this joke even with my therapist where I'm like, this is the longest and strongest love hate relationship I have, because you hate.
The therapy. So if you are comfortable talking about your experience with the therapy, as you were mentioning, so that our viewers know a little bit about the insiders insight, which we can
Hmm.
say. And I want to approach a therapist, things which will come to my mind are something which I would like.
Hmm.
So the first thing is how what are the doubts which come to our mind when
Yeah.
we approach the first therapy session is something which I would like to start with, if you're fine.
All right. I am completely fine talking about my experience, because one, I want it to not be stigmatized as much as it is. I feel so passionately about the fact that therapy is such a taboo. It's so normal to need help. I keep saying this and I keep saying this, that for me, I just want it to be treated normally. I want it to be treated as normally as you treat, say, any other consultation with any other professional. And I will be answering your question, of course, but I just want to start off by saying
Yeah,
that,
please go
um
ahead.
even though we say, okay, mental health matters and this and that, but what things will progress only if these words are followed by action. And the action, again, when we say, first of all, be an empathetic listener, and be don't invalidate someone, which also means make yourself more sensitive to issues. And even when you're making yourself more sensitive to issues, make yourself sensitive to the fact that it's okay to get help for it also. There's not everything you can deal with on your own. Again, this is not me saying that if there's any small stressor, just go seek help. But my decision to take therapy was because it felt extremely distressing to me physically. That's when I knew I'm kind of in trouble. So I had, I had a lot of overthinking tendencies, and I used to stress a lot. And I think sadly, that's pretty much everyone our age at this point, or anyone at this point, this tendency to overthink and the tendency to just be so stressed out all the time. That was me. And again, because it's so normalized, you think it's like a completely okay thing to happen, which to a point is fine. I suppose you can kind of regulate it for yourself.
Mhm.
For me, like I said, it started affecting me physically in the sense where, like, complete loss of sleep, complete loss of appetite, um, this feeling of restlessness. I had this feeling of restlessness, but I didn't have the energy to do anything. And that's such a kind of a bad place to be in, physically and mentally, where, you're just, when you're, say, you're feeling so tired, you want to lie down, but when you're lying down, you're just feeling a very restless sort of energy. That's how it used to kind of feel for me. And um this just general lack of motivation, and mental motivation, yes, but physical motivation also. And before that point, I am actually someone who is extremely active physically. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I strength train very regularly. I'm one of those people who walk 10,000 steps a day as a rule, and things like that. So I was physically really active, but
Mhm.
um, when these aspects of my life started getting affected, that's when I knew, yeah, no, I need to now stop joking about it, and I need to actually take help, because this is not something I'm able to deal with on my own. And to so that was the my decision behind actually taking therapy. It's when I understood that it's physically causing me distress. It's not just mental anymore. And when it starts kind of constantly going on in your mind, and you can't really ignore it now, I think a sign, and these are the signs that were signs for me.
Mhm.
And so I went into my first session. Again, it's um I have this joke where I say that finding a good therapist is as difficult as finding a good partner nowadays, because your therapist is essentially someone you're going to open up to about your most vulnerable situation. So you want someone you can, connect with, and you want someone that's not going to again invalidate what you're going through. And so again, for me, luckily it was someone I kind of knew from a friend of friends, and also luckily for me, because I come from this field as well, that the network kind of was in this entire
Mhm.
field. So for me, I lucked out when I found a very good therapist the first time itself. And it was someone who, even right off the bat was very reassuring, in the sense where I felt safe. I felt safe with my therapist. I felt okay opening up. Having said that, it's extremely difficult to open up also. Your first, my experience, my first few sessions, I used to ask myself, why am I putting myself through this? After every session, I used to find myself asking this question, because it's so difficult. Again, I would like to talk about my experience, because I want to say that it gets better. It's like again, because I work out also. It's the first session, your first workout session, where you're so, you're in pain and you want to cry and you want to die, because it's so difficult, what you're putting yourself through physically, but you're only get going to get better, and it's only going to help you. This effort you're putting into your body in the gym or anywhere else, it's the same thing. The therapy is the same thing for your mental health and for your mind and for your emotions. You're putting yourself through a lot of pain, but it's only so that it's going to get better. And
Right.
that's what my experience was. um
I really
you asked
like
about my
the
first.
metaphors you used. Sorry to interrupt. Really like the
Yeah, so
metaphors you used.
the gym.
The gym thing.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
is
it's a
absolutely, I
gym
think,
session.
yeah, the gym sessions, how tiring that can be, but then how it heals you from inside is something which I really liked. I really,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how I have. See, that's the thing. I think for me, and luckily, I am also surrounded by these people where it's so normalized for us. When I say for us, I mean the people that I am also associated with. It's so normal for me to think about physical and mental health going hand in hand. So, it's I for anyone who talks to me, and we talk about my experience with therapy, and overall,
Mhm.
I say that it was never like a major thing for me in terms of should I even do it, because I'm afraid of what people will think. See,
Right.
I this is also another privilege that can be
Right.
spoken about, because the privilege of even being open to people about taking therapy. And when I said that people need to be more empathetic, this is how you help the people who are in distress. Just
Absolutely.
just normalize these things for them. Maybe it's not normal for you. And again, anytime I say the word normal, just assume I'm using air quotes, because what is that word even? But like, if someone's distressed and you don't, you feel like therapy is only for people who are in the extreme, in the extremes of their mental health journey.
Mhm.
um, don't be that person. Don't discourage. If you don't know how to help, at least at least then be supportive of someone wanting to seek help. Don't discourage from decisions like these. So yeah, okay, so sorry, we were talking about my first experience.
No,
And
that's okay. That's
uh,
okay. Yeah. Just wanted to, like, as you mentioned, it's so good to hear that that you had a very supportive people around you. So I before we go ahead with your experience of first therapy session, I would like to know, did you mention this with your family, and like how was the reaction to it? Like I wanted to know that.
uh, so I come from, say, like, the typical Indian kind of a family.
Mhm.
And I was amazed at how everyone took it, to be very honest. Amazed in the best way. When things got really kind of tough, and like I mentioned, it started taking a toll on me physically, where I couldn't sleep, I was losing my appetite. It was very obvious that something's not right. And for me, my mom, she saw that, and she saw that something's really not right. And in her way, she did say to me, let's go to the doctor. Again, when she mentions doctor, it's our general physician, who's kind of our family doctor, and let's go to the doctor. And I had to tell her that going to the doctor is not going to help, Karan, because physically everything's fine. Like, I'm not sick, it's just that these are the physical symptoms that are showing. But a doctor's, what are they going to do also, right? Like, say you don't want to be taking sleeping pills, and those are also not something that are so casually prescribed also. So what will a doctor even do? For lack of appetite also, there's nothing really that a general physician could be helping me out with. Or with a lack of motivation, what medicines are there for this from a general physician perspective? Again, I'm not commenting on core clinical issues that are relevant and which psychiatrists do use medications to help with. I am talking about something which was not a clinical case. In my case, it was just something which was borderline anxiety for me. So when my family and when my mom primarily saw this, and when I told her that just going to a doctor is not going to help, she was a sport about it. When I told her that only therapy is going to be helping me at this point, she was completely on board and very supportive. And I always say this. I say that I come from privilege only because of the good quality people I'm surrounded with. Because even my friends, the friends that I had, not once did anyone say that whatever, it's not really a big thing that you're going through. It was always, so I've received so much support and so much understanding, and there's so much normalcy even in even when I mentioned the fact that I'm taking therapy or even thinking about taking therapy. So my family and my friends, everyone was super supportive, and it only made it so much better for me because there was I was already dealing with so much. You don't want to deal with this extra tension of what will people say, or how do I keep this hidden, or and sadly that is the reality for people. And there's nothing really you can do about it. But that's why I keep saying, and I sound like a broken record at this point, but just be empathetic, because you have no idea, just that little bit of empathy, how much it helps someone going through a bad time. Because for me, again, having said all these things, therapy is something I've terminated long back, and therapy is something I took also long back. When I say long back, it was a couple of years ago. uh, I still remember the support that I got, and I still remember what a big part it played for me. So that's how important a good quality support system is for someone going through distress, and going through a very tough time emotionally and mentally. So for me, I lucked out. My family was always extremely supportive and very understanding, without making like a big deal out of it. In the sense, they didn't make a big deal out of me getting better, but never a big deal about me taking help for getting better. It was always very well accepted, and I feel extremely lucky that that was the case for me.
So thank you
Yeah.
so much for, highlighting how important is the family support. And so it's really going to be a very it's really actually very insightful conversation. And I have so much things to, ask you about. So the first thing is like how you have a good connection. As you mentioned, you have a connection from mental health fraternity, which helped you to, approach a therapist. But then how was the initial process like? I just wanted to know like how it began, like how you approached her and how she was, like how did she explain you the procedure and
Yeah.
yeah, all those aspects.
For one thing, I was so trustful of my therapist was because a few of my friends had already taken help from her in the past,
Mhm.
and you can. You can see the results, like literally. So when someone comes with reference, that's always very helpful when you know someone is, which is again why it's so important to talk about your own experience, because you have no idea if it's going to help someone. If someone hears me say that, okay, this therapist really helped me, it's going to make it easier for them to kind of bridge the gap
Absolutely.
between wanting to go somewhere, because it's so difficult. How do you find a good therapist also? Like, of course, there's Google. So even if, I would say please see reviews whenever, if the internet is a place you're going through, please see reviews. Please see their qualification also. Because there's so many coaches you have out here, people who, who are not, not, what do you say?
Trained,
uh,
maybe.
Trained. Yeah, they're not trained and they're not skilled to have the role of a therapist. So please ensure that they're properly trained and certified, and um, they come with they even if it's not someone who comes with experience, because of course someone has to start somewhere, but see how you're feeling right off the bat. Having said this, it also takes time, because a therapist and a client relationship is again a relationship, and
Right.
no relationship is going to, like be perfect right off the bat. It's a
Absolutely.
relationship that needs to be developed. So as give as much as you're expecting in return also. So when I say this, I mean go at it with openness, and so one is talk to people around you who've taken help, see if they would recommend their therapist. So that is the best first approach to take when you're looking to seek therapy. It always helps to know that someone's gone through it and someone's benefited from it. That would be the first step. And the second step is, again, there's so much out there on the internet, on Instagram, etc. So you have access to information. Just ensure that then there are reviews, and see if you can have a first introductory kind of a call, see what approach they're taking also. So even for therapy, it's not a one size fits all kind of an approach. So there's so many elements to it. So for me, when it started, I had a lovely conversation with my therapist even before our session, so where she kind of just wanted to know about why I'm going there, not getting into the details of it on the call itself, but she just wanted to know if she's a good fit for me or not. And she explained the process to me very well, where a therapist does not give you answers. And that's a misconception, a very big misconception, where, acha, you're going to a therapist, so they're going to just answer all the questions you have. Not at all. That does not happen. And people are disappointed when that does not happen, but it's not supposed to happen that way. So even understanding so that was something that was kind of explained to me well, where what the process is going to look like. I remember this lovely thing she said to me when we were talking on call, where she said that you're on your journey and you may feel like you're carrying a heavy weight. All I can do is not tell you where to go, but know that I am walking with you on this journey, and know that you have someone who has your back. And it's a process where we are going to be going hand in hand, and we're going to be going into this together. And for me, that was really reassuring, because again, because I come from the field, I know that therapy is not, like a place which gives you direct answers. It's answers you're supposed to kind of find for yourself. And I understand I sound preachy and poetic here, but that's really what and how it is. So for me, that first call itself was very reassuring, and she told me about her qualifications. She told me about her experience with being a therapist, etc. So that was very reassuring. So
Mhm.
again, I would say one, go to someone who can vouch for the person firsthand, someone you trust. Second, even if it's not someone, even if you're using, say, internet or anything else, see if there are any reviews, and in case there aren't any reviews, also try to get a feel of their approach. If it's someone who's going to, prescribe that, okay, 5 sessions and you're going to be good, in all probability, it's a scam. It's just someone wanting to get money from you, because how, without really knowing your problem, how can someone say that 5 sessions and you're going to be good? And what is good also, right? So just be aware of scammy situations. Maybe don't go to people who are just certified with a 3-day course, or like a very
Advanced
short-term course,
course, yeah.
because how do you, yeah, how do you don't want you don't know if you can trust them with your vulnerabilities. I wouldn't trust them with my vulnerabilities if, say, if it's a doctor who says he has a 3-day, like a course and now is a doctor. Because again, I treat it as a professional, and you can't really be a professional when you don't have the necessary skill set for it. So just see where and how they've been trained, what their work has been. And even if it's someone new, if um like, trust your gut instinct. If you feel like it's not working, feel free to just leave and find someone else. Because like I said, this is also something where trial and error works if the first time is not a good time.
Absolutely. Thanks for pointing out that those bullet points which we can say about how we can go about trusting a therapist and how to approach and all those things, the qualifications as you mentioned, and also about if you are the right fit is something which you need to look upon. So yes, the initial process might be something which is challenging. So yes, let's come back to the aspect of the first therapy sessions or first few therapy sessions. As you have also mentioned, I think in between somewhere that they were not very easygoing. You were also feeling that why I am putting myself into this situation. So like how motivated or motivated instead of motivation, I think,
Yeah,
what was the thing which kept you going?
yeah, yeah. The most important thing being, I knew it's going to be a long journey ahead. I knew that. And I think, again, maybe people may or may not connect with me on this, but um again, having to mention my physical health also here. Even there, any results take 3 months to show, a minimum, or like a minimum time frame of, say, 3 months it takes to even show that you've been putting work into your physical health, also to see even the, like the slightest bit of muscle or something. So for me, I kind of had given myself a time frame of, say, 3 months at least, to see how it's going. That's kind of something. It was an arbitrary time frame. This time frame had nothing to do with anything. It was just something I had given myself, where I was like, I don't want to give up on this anything before, say, the first 3 months at least. I had this joke even with my therapist, where I'm like, this is the longest and strongest love-hate relationship I have, because you hate it in the moment, because it's so difficult. You're trying to navigate through your emotions. You're trying to navigate through your vulnerabilities, and so for me, it was, I still say that it was a very, very strong love hate relationship. I love the after effects of it, because I can finally feel much better. But I hated it in the moment, only because it makes you feel so extremely uncomfortable, and like, it makes you feel uh, if you're ready for this or not. But if you're finding yourself in front of a therapist, clearly you're ready for it, because you've made your way until there. So then it's just, I feel like even going there is kind of a more difficult step than actually doing the process, because that's like half the battle won, where, okay, you found yourself in front of someone you can be assured is someone who's going to help you, and you're ready for them to help you out. So for me, initially, it took some time to understand how it works. It took some time to even realize that it's not always going to be so bad. So contrary to how people think, not all sessions are going to be about you crying and finding some insight at the end of it. That's really, I hope that that's how it worked, but that's really not how it works. Some sessions, you're also focusing on the good and the progress you've made, and it's so liberating to even discuss progress, because you've seen yourself come so far when you've come so far. So it's not that all sessions are going to be bad, or it's not that, every session is going to be like a cry session. And also this is another thing that I learned and changed my mindset about, that crying is not just for sadness, or it's not just a sign of weakness or anything. Crying is literally one of the few ways of the body to discharge emotion. It's as equivalent to you sweating it out again during a session at your physical, when you're physically engaged in an activity. You're sweating there, your body is just finding another way to regulate your emotions, and tears are one very simple, quick way to do that. And that changed my perspective about things a lot, because you crying is so again stigmatized also, right? Where
Absolutely.
we also stay in the society where men are just not allowed to do it at all. And I can only understand how difficult that must be, like just keeping your emotion inside of you for so long, just because you've been told that that's not a good thing to do as a man. um I I do not agree with that. So anyway, that's, I think, like a very separate, very much larger societal
That
issue.
issue.
so for me, that's how it was. For me, I had given myself some time, and I was disciplined enough to then not falter. So I was disciplined. I used to like every week I have to do this. I gave myself some time. And once you start seeing slight progress, and you start seeing that things are getting better, and
Mhm.
progress looks very different to different people also. At that point, progress for me was also not waking up 5 times in the middle of the night. Maybe just waking up 2 times in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
Even that was progress. And that may not seem like progress, but you're seeing that some changes are happening. Maybe you're eating slightly more, or, maybe I was at least able to be out of bed much more than I could be. So
Mhm.
it's these very small things, but because for me, I realized that physically I was not doing well, which was why I kind of started my journey. Then
Mhm.
I could see changes in my physical well-being also much before my emotional well-being. That's kind of when I knew that, okay, something seems to be working for me. And so then it motivates you to keep going also, right? So when you see smaller progress, progressive steps, then it gets much easier for you to continue down that path. So that was the case for me, where I never, I never stopped, because I keep using this analogy a lot, because it's also when you don't work out for a long time and then you start again, the body is equally sore as it was on the first day itself.
Right.
I think it's the same with therapy, where I kind of knew that if it's going to be irregular, you're going to have to start from scratch. And who wants to start distressing emotions from scratch all the time? So I continued doing it, and it only got better for me. So yeah, so that was kind of my experience, at least the first few things. So I gave myself some time. I gave myself like a time frame, and I ensured that I was disciplined with my time frame. And that really helped me stay kind of on track.
That is something which would help every one of us to understand that we should be able to be patient enough
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
not giving up right away in first or second session, because I think there is also one more stigma around it, like we would get that feel good thing after the session or something. That is
yeah.
not going to obviously happen in every session. And also a little bit about how you gave yourself time in the beginning. And also I like the way you mentioned the actual symptoms which you noticed in yourself of healing.
Yeah.
Right. So I would also like to know, how the termination process was for you. Is it, yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Uh, okay, so for me, it was my decision to terminate.
Okay.
And again, I think this can be subjective. There are times when the therapist also feels like, okay, the client is doing well enough, and you don't want to unnecessarily
Mhm.
continue the relationship, because it can also cause a lot of dependency
Right.
when you don't need it. When you need it, it's fine. So that is also something that happens. In my case, I was the one who decided that, I feel good enough. Now, when I say good enough, I realized that I had come a long way, because for me, I was in the whole therapy process for a good 1 year and a few months. So it's a long time when you think about it, and I know that. So um, when when I realized that I had come a long way, the physical symptoms were completely gone. I was physically completely on track, in comparison to the physical symptoms which were showing for me initially. And for me, I realized that you call these triggers, which are instances which kind of uh, um, activate your nervous system, and these triggers are something which you feel will activate your unhealthy coping mechanisms. When I realized that my triggers were not getting activated with the same instances which would have been a trigger for me in the past. So, for example, I'm like I mentioned, so I tended to overthink about a lot of things. And when I found that if it's the same situation, I would have reacted very differently a year ago than when I'm reacting and dealing with it now, or the same kind of stressor, which is not affecting me to a very physical and a very distressing level, and I'm able to regulate it well on my own. So we used to have these discussions, like I used to have these discussions with my therapist where, like I mentioned, you're not just talking about your childhood trauma and you're just crying. That's not how it works. So you're also talking about progress. And we used to discuss these progressive moments as well. And when I realized that, I'm good on my own, and I don't need the help that I thought I needed for so long, was when I felt that, okay, it's time that we're on a good page, and it's time for me to end this. And the only example that's coming to mind for me is when I was learning to drive. So I was learning to drive on my own car and with an instructor next to me. And I was extremely scared because, again, I was learning to drive on a bigger car, having never done it before and things. So um, it was really nice to have someone right next to me. It was really nice. But when I actually got the hang of it, and I realized that there's nothing much that I'm getting out of it anymore. I'm good enough to now take this on my own. And I think that's when I think it was a very good time for me to end things. So again, this is a discussion. The termination is as important as the start is, because you want to kind of end the relationship. And I keep mentioning relationship because that's essentially what it is. It is a relationship, and you want to end it well. So there's a certain process that every therapist will kind of undertake. For me, it was there were a few sessions which we took to even end things properly. So um, you kind of want to you so again, I can talk about my experience where we looked back on how things started. We looked at the present, about where things stand at the moment, and we also like looked at the future, where what things will look like. And it was like systematically done for me in that way. So you don't want to feel abandoned or anything, and you want to feel that empowered rather. So for me, that was a case where we discussed all of these things. And of course, I mean, you can always go back if you need to go back. It was overall a very good experience for me.
It was so so easy to just sit and listen and hear out about the complete process. I understand it would have been so difficult, and it's going to be difficult for everyone. But I actually want to say to give a shout out to our viewers, just like Shreya has narrated the incident. I would say that if you feel that you need a help and you need professional help, please reach out to someone who can help you out with your struggle. If you are seeing someone in your like in your family or in your friend or you're at your workplace, please help them, please motivate them to go and see someone who is qualified to address or guide you in such a difficult situation. So yes, I said guide and address is something because um, as Shreya has already mentioned that this is not going to be a question answer session or solution giving or advice giving. This is going to be something which both the therapists and the you as a client are going to collaboratively work on your issues. So yeah, I would like, Shreya to highlight on a few aspects about what people, should make sure while they are going to approach a therapist, or what they should expect, and for example, how to, handle and deal with those taboos and things which are pulling you
Yeah.
behind. So all these aspects I would like to know. Yeah.
I There's a few things. I would start by saying that if if you know you need help, again, when it's very distressing for you physically, mentally, and if you feel like there's no one who's going to kind of understand you, don't feel the pressure to um to tell people, is something I would say. Like, of course, it's great to have people you can tell that, I'm taking help, or I'm feeling so badly.
Mhm.
But if you kind of don't feel that trust in opening up to someone, and if you know you need help, go take help. It's not, you're not obliged to tell everyone what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
you also, I mentioned privilege, that I was lucky to be able to be completely open with the people I was surrounded with. But maybe if it was someone who I know will, it will not be good for me to kind of open up about that, or, it will be someone who may pull me down in that regard, then it's okay for you to hold back. It's okay for you to keep this to yourself unless you can completely trust someone. So I
Right.
would say be careful about the people you're trusting, because at the end of the day, it's your vulnerabilities and
Right.
you don't want them to be misused.
Yeah.
So it's important to have a support system. Trust the people who you're going to be opening up to. It's not necessary for you to open up to people who you do not trust
Right.
completely. That would be one thing. The other thing is exercise patience when it comes to therapy. It's going to take time, it's going to take effort, it's going to take so much effort, because like I said, the more you give, the more you get. So the more you're, the more you're giving effort into the process, and the more you're trusting it and opening up, the better it's going to be in the long run. Even though it feels absolutely terrible in the moment, may or may not feel absolutely terrible. This is my experience. It's difficult in the moment, but it's only going to get better. So exercise patience, and some people may need just a few months, some people may need maybe a year, or some people may need a few weeks. So it completely depends and is very subjective. Do not compare someone's journey with yourself, because maybe the issues ran deeper, or maybe the complexity was much larger, that it took someone much more time. You may or may not need that much time. Maybe it's something in the moment that you need to deal with, and you've dealt with it and you feel fine, then that's great. So there's no need to compare your journey with someone else's, again, because struggle in itself is so subjective. You never know what someone else has in store. That would be another thing. And I think I think that's it for me. For me, I would say that be open to taking help, be okay with taking help, and be careful with the people you're trusting. That would be my advice. And please be careful with the person you're taking help from as well. Like, ensure that it's someone who's legitimate professionally, and academically and skill set wise. Be careful, because again, you don't want to leave feeling much worse than you started with. So ensure that. And always trust your gut instinct. If you feel like the relationship is not working, it's not working, and like, it's okay to move on and find something that's better for you.
And thanks a lot for, trusting me and trusting with opening up about the therapy. I know it's really difficult. uh, I can actually see that, and I don't know if it would have been much more better if it would have been in a offline setting, because it gives much more confidence to talk about things. In this setup, we don't even realize
Yeah.
if the person is comfortable speaking with and all those things. So if some things were kind of triggering or went in that touched your soft corner or something, I really apologize for that. And yeah, I think it would be great.
No, that's you don't need to. Honestly, it's I'm just glad that we have a platform where we really can raise awareness, and raise awareness is it's something you hear so much of. But I just want people to know that it's not so intimidating. It's like any other thing. It's like going to any other professional and getting any other kind of help that you need. So I want it to be so normalized that of course, I'm not talking about the triggers being normalized. I'm just talking about the seeking of help to be so normalized that okay, it's like any other thing. It's nothing that one needs to be scared of or one needs to be ashamed of in any way. And I'm so glad I got this chance to even talk about it, and I see it as, even if it helps, say, one person feel like they're floating in the same boat, don't feel that your problems are any smaller just because in comparison to someone else's they're smaller. In your own way, they are huge for you. So it's fine. It's all right, and it's going to get better if you want it to get better. You just have to kind of work toward making it better. So I just hope it didn't get extremely heavy content wise, but I had a lovely time talking to you about this, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shreya. Yeah.